What's up, everybody? This is Mitchell Thompson with Self-Sustained Training, and today we're going to be covering how to perfect your posture. Over all the years of all the clients that I've trained up to this point, the most effective long-term strategy for maintaining their gains in the gym is knowing how to work out in the first place. You see, most people, they don't even realize they're not working out right, let alone they don't think about how they run, let alone how they walk, let alone how they stand. But from the bottom up, if you can learn how to stand correctly, you can then learn how to walk correctly, you can then learn how to run correctly, and then you can learn how to integrate exercises at the gym correctly. Just to give you a little summary, the primary reason people do not stand, walk, or run correctly, let alone work out correctly, is because they have poor biomechanics. Biomechanics is just the way in which your body naturally moves, and because we don't move the same way or to the same capacity that our ancestors once had to, meaning since we aren't utilizing our body's base biomechanics the way that they were intended to, we accrue negative, consequential, adverse effects due to that lack of movement. And a lot of this comes from not moving and sitting a lot. The not moving and the sitting a lot then cause an adverse effect on our body. It can cause all sorts of malformations like kyphosis, lordosis, scoliosis, all these different things. And these postural abnormalities or these malformations that develop due to a sedentary lifestyle and due to not working out the right way, let alone running the right way, let alone walking the right way, let alone standing the right way, these malformations are the source of most people's chronic pain. So if we can attack these malformations head on, which are usually caused by poor posture, then we can start correcting a lot of the base mechanisms that are the cause of our chronic pain. And that's what we're going to be learning today. We're going to be learning the importance of maintaining perfect posture, especially when you're integrating them with exercises. So let's get right into it. So as you can see, I'm going to intentionally force a deficient posture. And what I'm trying to demonstrate in this video is how gravity is always pushing down on us. It's a constant battle if we're fighting against gravity. So again, I'll go into a deficient posture just so you can kind of see where all the insufficiencies reside. And in a lot of these movements, you'll notice like when my neck, when my cervical spine protrudes forward as it does, there's a non-technical term called nerd neck, but the actual scientific terminology for this abnormality is called lordosis. Lordosis also affects the lumbar spine if we have too much curvature at the lumbar spine. And then that rounding of the shoulders is called kyphosis. And you may have heard of scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. Lordosis and kyphosis are just inward curvatures or outward curvatures of specific points on the body. Lordosis being the cervical and the lumbar, kyphosis being the thoracic spine. Now, again, without boring you with all of this quote unquote scientific mumbo jumbo, it's just important that you understand there are actual malformations that build and develop through having bad posture. So if we can fix our posture, we can prevent those malformations from forming. And if we can prevent those malformations from forming, we can operate and optimize, or we can optimize the operations of our base biomechanics much, much more efficiently. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're standing shoulders width apart. Have your toes more internally rotated than not, meaning you want to try to have your toes facing more forward than outward. But if they're at a slight 20, 30, even 40 degrees outward, I mean, that's okay. That's not that big of a deal compared to the other 3 crucial steps that we're about to go over. But the first thing you want to do is make sure you're standing shoulders width apart. Now that we're standing shoulders width apart, the first thing we're going to do is bring our shoulder blades back and really open our chest. Once we've done that, we're going to drop our shoulder blades down. Thirdly, we will tuck our pelvis in. Now, this 3-step process, every single time you do it, will force you to have to maintain the flexion of your abs, which for most people, they don't realize the whole reason they have a deficient posture in the first place is because they don't have really good ab activation. And what we're really activating here is the part of our abs that has been underutilized through sitting so much. So that first step of pulling the shoulder blades back really gets the thoracic involved, where it was otherwise in that rolled shouldered state. We then drop the shoulder blades down to take the stress off of our traps in the upper part of our back. And then we finally tilt our pelvis forward, because from sitting, we usually have this elongation of our top leg muscle, which is called your rectus femoris, and that's pulling down on your pelvis, which causes it to tilt forward from sitting all day. So the tucking of the pelvis, the way in which we're doing it, is technically a posterior tilt, in contrast to what sitting causes, which is an anterior tilt. So bringing the shoulder blades back, then down, and then tucking the pelvis is all you need to do to ensure you have a perfect postural hold. So the best way to envision this, especially for the first step, is imagine you have a straight line connected from your chest, and depending on how rolled your shoulders are forward, and depending on how slouched your posture is, technically that line that's connected to your chest would be more down than up. So what you want to do is open up that chest and really try to focus that line going from down to eventually going up. Once we've opened up our chest, now we've got to relax our shoulders and really bring them down so the traps aren't being overactivated. And then finally, that tucking of the pelvis. And these are movements that take time, and they take a development of the mind-muscle connection, which people try to go into the gym and do all these things without even having a mind-muscle connection. But I promise, you will not even benefit going to the gym unless you fix your eating first, and then you fix your posture, and then integrate this potential perfect posture into your corrective exercises. So I'll show you an example of what most people do when they go into the gym and they work out with deficient posture. Like most people, when they go to the gym, they don't even realize they're curling wrong. Imagine curling wrong while having poor posture. This is how more people than not curl, believe it or not. And this is just all wrong. The worst part about it is how deficient our posture is. Now, before every exercise, this is something you should be mindful of before, during, and after the execution of the exercise, which is finding the efficient posture first. Once you found that potential perfect posture, you will then go in and execute the exercise to its full capacity. I mean, look how my abs are being activated. My body's acting as one kinetic chain. This is how you will integrate exercises once you master your posture. But unless you master your posture, it's not worth going into the gym and doing shit the wrong way. It's even more explicit with shoulder presses. I mean, when people shoulder press, they don't realize how lordotic their lower back is behaving and how lordotic even their upper cervical is behaving. So if you can just, again, before you go into any sort of shoulder press, if you can integrate that perfect posture, maintain that pelvic tilt on the posterior end, you can then execute a healthy, a more optimal biomechanical shoulder press. And this is what we're learning. We're learning how to integrate this potential perfect posture into every exercise that we do. And you can go on the website. I show how to execute every single one of the exercises that are on the programs that SST has to offer. And the primary distinction between what SST is offering and what other companies are offering is the integration of this perfect posture with all of your workout movements. Because I mean, if you can't even stand correctly, how do you expect to work out correctly? So before we summarize all of this up, there's one more thing we have to really think about, and that's called joint stacking. We really need to make sure that our joints, for the most part, are stacked on top of each other. The easiest way to think about it is you need your shoulders stacking your elbow essentially stacking your hip. Again, none of this is perfect, but this is a general rule of thumb. Your hip will then generally stack your knee, and then your knee will generally stack your ankle. This is what we are looking for with respect to a side view of our potential perfect posture, is that all of our joints are stacked and that there is a clear activation of our transverse abdominis, which is that lower part of our abs that's causing a suck in versus that upper part. So now that we've covered joint stacking, the real deficient movement that I've noticed out of a lot of my clients over the years, especially early on, is once they've gotten through the first couple steps of opening up their chest, really opening that thoracic, and then dropping the shoulders down to take pressure off the upper back, Once they get into that tilting of the pelvis, there tends to be at times this overextension of the pelvic tilt where it's almost too extended out, where they then get offline, and as you can see, it misaligns the stacking of the joints. So if you catch yourself encountering this problem, the main thing you want to consider in fixing the problem is do that posterior pelvic tilt. You should be able to tuck that pelvis without moving your chest whatsoever, without rolling or dropping your chest, or even protruding your neck for that matter. So, in summary, the way in which we integrate perfect posture into our exercises is to make sure we know how to even get into our perfect posture. And the way we get into our perfect posture is a simple 3-step process. Once we've got our feet shoulders width apart, the first step is to open up our chest and bring our shoulder blades back. The second step is to drop our shoulder blades down to relax our upper back. And the third step is to tuck that pelvis in. But make sure you don't tuck that pelvis or overextend that pelvis, because that's when we can get into that overextended position that misaligns our joints. So there you have it. At the end of the day, if you fix your posture, you will fix the way you stand. If you fix the way you stand, it'll fix the way you walk. If you fix the way you walk, it'll fix the way you run. And if you know how to run properly, you then are prepared to go into the gym and execute every exercise to its most efficient capacity. Without knowing how to stand properly, you won't know how to integrate that perfect posture into your exercises, which will cause you to work out through deficient posture, which can exacerbate the chronic pain that you're currently experiencing. So make sure you fix that perfect posture, practice this daily, and I can assure you that with the perfect posture correction and with cleaning up your diet and nutrition, your standard of living will take a complete 180. And that's how you become self-sustained, where you don't need a personal trainer to be behind your back, making sure that you're doing everything the right way. It's teaching you the tools so you know how to execute everything on your own to where you'll never need another personal trainer ever again.